today's episode, we are honored to have Kute Blackson. Kute is a powerful transformational teacher. He's a best-selling author. He's a speaker. He's been interviewed by the likes of Larry King, and he has such an amazing story. And today, he's going to share with you how anyone can find out who you truly are, your true essence, and from that authentic center, how to live a life of more confidence and of more purpose. We've got so much amazing things in this episode. I'm so excited to bring it to you guys. Let's dive into it. Just dive right into it. And let's go deep. So Kute, you talk a lot about finding the real you. That's something you help people do. So why don't we start off by, let me just ask you, who are you, Kute?
If I were to answer that question in the most authentic way, the entire podcast would be silent. Because when you ask that question, anything I say I am is just words, it's just concepts, it's just labels. But I think the real essence of what I am, if you ask that question sincerely, whatever I say is a limitation. It is a limitation on the true essence of what I am and my real nature. And so on one level, I would just say nothing, because what I am is, beyond concepts, is beyond words, beyond description, beyond birth, beyond death, energy, source, consciousness. Again, labels, but silence would be my best response. But what I would say is, I'm everything, I'm nothing, all at the same time. And I feel as though what I am is what you are, and what I am is what you are, which is what we all are. And so in that sense, I am you and you are me, and everyone listening. We are one. We are the same consciousness that is manifesting itself as a multiplicity of form and all elements and all existence. And so in that sense, there's only one of us here, one of us having the conversation, one of us experiencing itself in this dimension of life. And so for me, life is kind of that process of awakening and realizing, who we are, which is the inherent oneness of all life. And so, we're one. I'm you, man.
Absolutely. So the true self is just the observer, the consciousness, the one who sees, the one that is still. And I'm guessing that's similar to what you're saying, right?
I think the true self is everything. It's everything. It's just the consciousness that is expressing itself as all.
And when you say all, you mean like
as all, everything. There's nothing that is not at the deepest level. For me, there's nothing that is not.
So like physical things, other humans.
Nothing. If everything is a manifestation of consciousness and everything arises from that source, the essence, I'm not talking about the physical form, but the essence, infused into all form is what I am. That same essence might manifest itself as steam, might manifest itself as an ice cube, right? Might manifest itself as water. But that same essence is the same. It just manifests as an ice cube, as water, as steam. But that same essence is the same. So for me, that essence is what we are. Despite the different physicalized manifestations, underlying the physical manifestations is the essence of what we are, which is that essence of consciousness, source, divinity, divine essence. I mean, again, we get into labels, but I think you get what I'm saying from that point.
So everything in the universe is coming from the same source, has the same essence.
Yes.
And can you explain to people, like, one, I think separating the mind and the consciousness is so powerful, one of the most powerful things people can do. But can you explain to people why this realization you have of, your essence is everything around you? Why is that so important? Like, why is it going to help someone if they make that differentiation and that awakening?
Look, I can't say it's going to help you or not help you. All I know is it's helped me. And
how has it helped you?
Yeah. And from that place, I think when we realize who we are, there's an inherent realization of the the connectedness that you and I are. And I think in that deep sort of understanding of what I am, I understand what you are beyond the physical body. And when I understand what I am and what you are, and what's living me is really what's living you. What's looking out of my eyes is really what's looking out of your eyes. There's a inherent oneness that is there, a shared oneness, a shared being. And so for me, my experience of that is, as I realized that I'm actually not so separate from you, and you're not that separate from me, even though it appears that way on this surface level, right? But I think in that sort of deepening of that realization of, wow, we're actually, there's a shared beingness, there's a sense of, I don't know, the word love. I sound a bit strong, but a sense of love that kind of has, at least for me, more love has blossomed in
Mm,
my heart for people. I'm not saying love like I go walk down the street kissing everybody, but
mm,
an internal sense of not feeling separate from you and
mm,
others. And just because someone is black, white, green, orange, blue, Chinese, Japanese, Russian, there's like, that's just the surface level, because at that deeper level, there's a shared being that we are, you know, that is at the source of what we are. And so for me, what that's opened up is a deeper sense of love, a deeper sense of connectedness, a deeper sense
mm,
of compassion, a deeper sense of, you could say, seeing the essence of who someone is. And in seeing the essence of who someone is, a deeper sense of relating to a very broad cross section of humanity, because rather than just being hyper focused on he looks different and she looks different and they can't speak the same language I speak and believe the same things I believe, so we're separate and we're not going to be close, and now we get into conflict. It's just for me, it's given me a deeper sense of connecting at a deeper level, of feeling close to people, and close to
yeah.
human and close to humanity and close to my fellow
Wow.
brothers and sisters, whether I know them or not, and maybe focusing and connecting at the level of the soul, more than just, I'm a man, you're a woman, I'm a man, you're a woman, I'm a man. We don't speak the same language, which creates more division and
Wow.
separation more than anything,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's so, so powerful. I mean, especially for someone, struggling with social anxiety, trying to make authentic connections, a lot of that is
Yeah.
defensiveness, feeling like
Yes.
I'm separate and not wanting to trust people. But if you
Yeah.
can just feel that you're inherently together and trust them, you're just going to open your heart and you're just going to flow more effortlessly. I mean, obviously, so, so powerful to come to that realization. So how do you, if someone is, struggling maybe with social anxiety, wants to become confident, how do you have them come to this realization that we are one, there is that oneness, and helping them find their true self?
Look, I think it's a process. I don't think it's, I would love to say, yeah, do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, boom, everything is gone. I think it's a process of exploring one's conditioning in certain ways. I think that there's usually reasons as to why we feel what we feel. And there's usually reasons as to why we have certain reactions to life. And maybe
Mm,
we don't feel safe in certain settings, or we don't feel safe within ourselves. And so for me, I have a tremendous kind of compassion for why we feel how we feel. Like, firstly, there's nothing wrong. If you feel anxious, or nothing wrong, nothing needs to be fixed. And so, look, I think as children, when we're first born, we're born in touch with our sort of divine nature. We're born in touch with our essence, right? I mean, I've never met I'm yet to me, I haven't met all babies on the planet, but I'm yet, often, like, I haven't really met a baby that came out going, I'm socially anxious, I'm afraid.
yeah.
They come out just full of light and
Mm,
love. If you hold a newborn, they just look at you, man. They're just looking at you without judgment,
yeah.
doesn't matter if you're like Pablo Escobar or El Chapo or Mother Teresa. They're looking at you, it's pure source looking at you. So they're not really like feeling anxious in that sense. And so as children, we would jump on the table and sing. We don't care if we don't sound like Bruno Mars or Beyonce. Like, we just, yeah, here I am, just being, right? Just pure being. We would run naked through the house. Doesn't matter, like, oh, I don't have a six pack. I don't look so good on Instagram. We just
Yeah.
being without that self consciousness, and those fears and insecurities. So I think it helps to understand, well, what the hell happened to us? We were all that free once. I have a newborn. He's about 14 weeks old now.
Mm,
And it's just full of freaking light, man. Just like
mm,
pure light. And so we were all And it reminds me when I hold him, we were all that once. The
Mm-hmm.
most corrupt politician, the murderer, the rapist, the most socially anxious person. We were all that pure light, free essence at one time. So what happens? I would say we incarnate into this human experience, which, is not the easiest place to be in this physical 3D incarnation. And so we incarnate into this physical experience. We meet our parents, and God bless them. They're doing the best that they know how to do based on their childhood and their upbringing and their traumas and their conditioning. So we're kind of born into like a preset pattern of conditioning and karma. And, maybe dad is crazy. Maybe mom is an alcoholic. Maybe they're fighting all the time and that didn't feel safe. And many of us went through certain experiences growing up, but we didn't feel safe in our environment, safe in our body, safe in the dynamic in our family, which creates stress and gives us a sense of anxiety. And so perhaps our parents were good people, but they just did not know how to meet our emotional needs, right? And so that was painful. And so that could create a sense of instability and anxiety inside or pain. And so two things, we kind of slowly learn to sort of unconsciously shut down, disconnect, not feel, as a way to function and survive, and as a way to deal with our reality, deal with our environment, as a way to be safe and be vigilant. And so we learn all sorts of strategies to suppress our feelings, and shut down, disconnect, not feel. And we erect kind of walls around our heart and feeling sensitivity to just function and survive, as a protective mechanism. So we develop all of these protective mechanisms as a survival strategy just to deal with the environment around us, the seeming threats, the seeming pain, the seeming instability around us. And often that becomes a way of being that we learn to adopt to just navigate life. That look that dad makes where he's about to go crazy and the argument's about to come. So we learn how to, navigate the jungle of life. And so many of those adaptive patterns we take into our adulthood as a way to just survive, and we develop many of those adaptive patterns of avoidance and suppression, and as a way because we don't want to experience the pain that we experienced again. We don't want to experience the awkwardness and the stress that we experienced again. And so we take that into our adulthood, and we become a bit anxious when certain situations kind of trigger the similar feeling. And we also learn, I think, all sorts of strategies, and much of which is unconscious. The conditioning process starts very young. We learn all sorts of strategies of who do I need to be in order to get love and validation and approvals. Oh, if I'm a certain way, then if I'm myself, as an example, when I'm myself, like I get punished. Or when I'm loud, I get that look from mom or dad. And so I learned that, part of me is not okay. Part of me is not accepted. And it's painful to not be accepted for who I am. It's painful to not be seen and ashamed for who I am. And so some of it's very intense. Maybe we get abused or beaten for being who we are. Boys don't cry. Girls don't act that way. And so we learn to kind of contort ourselves into a shape and a version of ourselves to become who we think we need to be in order to get love and validation and approval. And we become the version of ourselves that we think we need to be, thinking that's who we are, but it's who we've learned to be in order to be accepted, and so now we become shy. Because maybe when I'm not seen or when I'm not heard, then I don't get shouted at, or I don't get beaten, or I don't get abused, or I don't get, teased, and that was painful. So we learn a certain way of being. Oh, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be shy. I'm going to be, and so I think we take these, so we develop a role, a mask, a persona, right? And so we take these ways of being into our adulthood, and we form a personality that we think, oh, this is just who I am. This is just me. I am shy. I am socially anxious. I am XYZ. And we kind of hold tightly onto that in a certain way. But really, we've been conditioned and we've learned, that way of being just to navigate and deal with our reality in a certain way. And what worked for us to a degree when we were 5 or 7 or 10 or 15, it kind of works for us, but often it stops working for us as we get older, because now we're like, oh, it's not safe to show who I am. And I'm afraid of showing who I am, because when I show who I am around people, my mom, my dad, I was punished. I was disregarded. I don't want to be disregarded. So now we're, let's say, around community and around people, and we're afraid of, if I am who I am, then you won't love me. And so it can, I think, trigger tremendous anxiety, right? Because I don't want to feel that pain again, because it's so painful, especially as children, that sometimes we don't realize it or we minimize it. It's so painful to show who you are and to have who you are rejected. To have who you are rejected as a child is one of the most hurtful things. But this has happened so often that often we're not even conscious and aware of it. And so now that often translates into anxiety, because I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be. And so now we kind of feel I have to hide and I have to avoid. And so I think if we can begin to explore and understand that we've been conditioned, and start to explore and become conscious of the ways, because some of which we're conscious of because they might be more obvious, but some of these ways aren't that obvious. Like, we weren't conscious that we didn't feel safe. We weren't conscious of the ways that our essence, our authentic nature was rejected subtly by mom or dad. No, I had a great relationship with my dad. Yeah, but we weren't aware of some of the ways which we were not fully just accepted for being whatever we were as children, right? Because they're being conditioned. And so because we're not aware, unconsciously we're programmed, and unconsciously we are living, and that expresses in certain ways. So if we can start becoming aware, oh, wow, I've been conditioned. And we can start exploring just lovingly, not trying to fix ourselves to be something, but just exploring some of the sensitivities, some of the patterns of our conditioning and how we became conditioned. Then we also start to see that some of our ways of being, right, as adults, are serving a positive intention. And so we don't have to fix ourselves, judge ourselves for being a certain way. But I think if we're then able to become aware and start meeting ourselves with a bit of tenderness, meeting our sensitivity, meeting our anxiety, meeting our fears with a bit of compassion. It's like, yeah, I understand. Wow. Yeah. Because it's the ability to be aware and hold ourselves presence with love, with compassion, just to be with it, just to be able to be with ourselves as we are, with total compassion in and of itself, is profoundly healing. To me, healing is applying loving to those parts of ourselves that are hurting. So I think if we can just start there, a lot of the anxiety can just kind of start melting.
Yeah. And so just to summarize, so we're born free, but then throughout, life, we have this conditioning. We maybe experience some painful situation, and we learn strategies to kind of how to cope with that, to avoid that pain again, which usually is going to be anxiety, is going to be avoidance, and all that. So the first step is getting awareness. And before we even dive to the next step, how does someone, gain that awareness? Because especially you said some of these are really subconscious. We might be conscious of some things, but some of these happened maybe many years ago, and you're continuing that same pattern unconsciously. So how does one become conscious of that? If we stick with that first step.
Yeah, I think first is just becoming conscious that you're conditioned, right? Because so often, many times, I've worked with people that say, no, I'm just shy. It's It's just who I
Yeah,
am.
it's my
It's just
personality. Yeah.
it's just who I am. This is
Yeah.
me. You got to accept
Yeah.
me for me. It's just me. Is it you? And see, and then we don't really question. Is it me?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
first question, who is me? And what am I really? And what is my
Yeah.
true nature? And what is my authentic expression? Or is it my conditioning? Because
Right.
the more we hold on to this is just who I am a shy person, the less we can change because we're so identified with that way of being. Then there's no space and there's no room to explore. There's no space and there's no room to expand, to transform because we're so busy holding on. And so you could say that that sense of being so identified with ourselves as something is ego. That's ego. And
Hmm.
ego doesn't want to change.
Hmm.
Ego doesn't want to change. It wants everything and everyone else to change, but it doesn't want to change because change for the ego feels like a death.
Hmm.
Because if I am shy, if I am XYZ, and I start to question that, I start to let that go. That then who will I be? And I don't want to let that go because at least I know who I am, and by knowing who I am as a shy person or fill in the blank, then I can kind of navigate my reality and keep myself safe. So if I question, no, can't question. But if I question, then I might not be sure of who I am, and I might not be sure what might happen. So we tend to hold on to who we
Hmm.
think we are really out
Yeah.
of safety. That's why the
Yeah.
compassion piece is necessary. Sometimes we beat ourselves up and like, why am I not changing? But if we can just understand, wow, like I'm holding on out of fear, I'm holding on out of self-preservation, then we can start just meeting ourselves with that loving. And when we can hold ourselves with that loving, then we can begin to relax. Then we can begin to feel a bit safer with ourselves. And that's when you could say an opening begins to happen. And so we have to be willing
Yeah.
just to acknowledge that we have been conditioned. Yep, I've been conditioned. And we have to be
Hmm.
willing. The willingness is key. So you could say, number two, be willing. Number three, begin an exploration of questioning. Is this me? Like, is it really? And start
Hmm.
questioning what we believe about ourselves. And I think if we can just start massaging and questioning and just even exploring, um, how did I get to be me? You
Hmm.
know, because we didn't come out of the womb shy, right? We came out of the womb like, ah. And so I
Hmm.
think if we could just start going back, questioning, like, how did I get to be me? And what happened in my childhood and growing up, and were there things, and just the exploration can start, you could say, can begin to massage your psyche and consciousness a little bit and loosen the egoic grip on your own identity and self-identification of this is just me, and just wow, oh yeah, wow, yeah, I see when I was, yeah, the way my relationship with my dad, and oh, I see, oh, this thing happened that I kind of pulled back after that. I didn't really think of it. So I think if we can just start to explore some
Hmm.
of these experiences, that can start loosening, but also give us some perspective to question ourselves, that I think can begin a
Yeah.
process
So
of unraveling. You know,
yeah.
it's kind of like we're gripping so tightly, so now we're beginning that process of unraveling. I'm not saying rip off the grip, just slowly massage and unravel
Yeah.
oneself so that we can find some space. You know, just like wow, let me find a bit more space within myself to open to more. I think that's the beauty.
Yeah. So that awareness is so key, to be aware of this conditioning and accept it's happening, and then just bring in just a lot of curiosity to
Yeah.
how I became this way. And it takes courage because, like you said, our ego wants to cling to this. It's all it knows.
Yes.
It's that certainty. The uncertainty is too scary. So you need to realize it takes courage. Like there's going to be resistance when you start observing yourself, having that awareness, and wanting to make change. Ego is going to be fighting you. So it's good
Yeah.
to kind of see that coming ahead of time, so you know
Yeah, the
what
ego
to expect.
resists, is a resistance machine. Is typically what we're doing all day long in many ways if we're not aware. And so
Hmm.
look, yes, first off, I will say it takes a lot of courage to truly change. It takes a
Hmm.
lot of, this is why I started out saying the ego doesn't want to, we say we want to change, but no, we don't. We say we
Yeah.
want to change, but we really don't. I think, to be honest, I work with people very intensely. And one of the first things I kind of make people do is acknowledge. They say, cool, I want to transform. I'm like, are you sure? I really want to transform. And I realize many times we don't want to transform, but we're convincing ourselves that we do want to shift and transform, but we really don't. That just keeps us stuck even more. Part of, you could say, the progress is acknowledging, I actually don't want to transform, and here's why. And that sounds a bit counterintuitive, but if you can, rather than pretending that in convincing yourself you want to transform, but ego is holding on, is just to acknowledge the truth by saying, I'm holding on. I actually really don't want to change. I mean, deep down, I would like to, but this is the part of me that doesn't want to change, and here's why. And if you can just identify that, holding on, and acknowledge it, it can begin a process, it can begin a process. And so I always tell people, kind of as a side thing, one of the things that keeps us stuck from shifting and transforming, because ego doesn't want to change, is denial and the lies that we tell ourselves. It is, I can't even say it's conscious. Many times it's really unconscious. It's not a conscious thing. It's unconscious self-preservation. It's like the ego's job. So first, let's just say the ego is that which we mistakenly believe ourselves to be, based on conditioning, based on belief systems, ideas, identities, thoughts, emotions, history, past memories that we hold on to. And that's what we're talking about. And the ego's job is to protect you from getting hurt like you were hurt when you were young. And the ego's job is to reinforce its existence and identity. It's like, I'm alive, I'm a real thing. And so ego is not a thing like, oh, here's a bicycle. It's a thing. Ego is a process of identification. Like a pedaling on a bicycle is a process. The bicycle is a thing. And so the more we hold on, that is the process of, you could say, what ego really is the process of identification. And so the job of the ego to protect you from getting hurt, well-intended, adaptive pattern that is a reaction often to things. But the challenge is when we're run by that, life becomes very limited. But also the ego's job is to reinforce its existence and identity, which is why we tend to avoid change and why we tend to want to be in control of everything in life. Because if I can control how you perceive me, right? If I can control my environment, if I can control social situations, if I can control my cat, my friend, my child, the government, then maybe I won't get hurt again like I was hurt back then. Yeah. But also I as an ego separate sense of self, then I must be real. If I am the doer that's doing everything and making shit happen all the time, then I must be real. And that gives the ego a sense of false reality. That's why letting go, surrender can feel terrifying and scary to the ego, because, oh shit, if I let go, if I transform, if I surrender my life to this infinite intelligence and flow, maybe bad things will happen. I might get hurt, or maybe I won't exist as myself as I know it.
Yeah. So yeah, the letting go is extremely scary for the ego. The ego wants to cling on and control. And I definitely want to get more into letting go and surrender. But before we move to that, you said after you have that awareness, a big step is compassion. So let's actually go into an example. Let's say I go to a party, or someone who's socially anxious goes to a party, and they're constantly looking at other people. They're comparing themselves. Everyone else is talking. I'm not being as social. They feel that anxiety in their stomach. They have these thoughts of everyone else is cooler than you. Everyone else is more socially confident than you. These thoughts. How do you bring in that compassion?
So first I would just say, first I would say breathe. Just breathe. Because often when we're in anxiety, you'll notice your body is tense, your breath is tense, everything is tense. And when you cut off when you cut off your breathing, it's going to affect your body, your chemistry, your brain. You're going to go into, as you said, survival mode, fight or flight mode. You won't even, you can say whatever you want, but you're not even going to be thinking straight at that point. It's going to affect your biochemistry in a certain way. And so if you're able to just breathe, soften the body, relax the muscles, feel yourself, get grounded, and bring yourself here, present right now, touching your body, touching the floor, touching objects around you, looking around, and actually getting here. Because many times when we're cut off from our breath, unconsciously, we've gone into a trance we're not even here right now. We're 6 years old. The feelings, we're like 5 years old. We're 8 years old. We're back there. We're not even here, because logically we know everything is relatively cool now, but we're not feeling adult self. We're not necessarily here right now. So I would say breathe, just to kind of give people some guidance. Breathe, tune into your body, slow down your breathing, soften your body, right? Scan the room and get present and more grounded here right now, and notice the sensations in your body. And I think when you can be with the sensations that are moving in your body and just give them the space and allow those sensations to move through you, then you'll find, because often what we try to do too that actually makes us more anxious is we feel anxiety and like, no, I can't feel this, and we try to we push it down. Like, I shouldn't feel anxious. I should be confident. I should feel powerful. Then we fight it. And that it's like constipation. The more you suppress it, the more it stays stuck, the more anxious you get, rather than just breathing.
The louder it gets.
I feel a bit anxious right now. And like if someone says you feel anxious and you're like, no, I don't feel anxious, versus feel anxious. Yeah, I feel a bit anxious right now. And I'm okay, and it's okay. But yes, there's no resistance. You want to talk about surrender? There's zero resistance. Resistance. Then the energy can relax, rather than like, no, I got to make myself feel pumped. Even the people, right, that go to motivational seminars pump themselves up, rah 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 rah. Underneath that are fucking, are terrified. Underneath that, they are terrified. So they feel this anxiety, but they're having to overhype themselves to the max so that they don't feel the fear that's under there. So they're always having to sort of burn out the overhyped maximum motivational hype, because they're afraid of, if I relax, I'm going to touch into the anxiety. So let me just keep myself. And so they're always running in the name of motivation, but really they're afraid. And so rather than running, I'm saying, just touch into that. Yeah, I'm a little anxious right now. Yeah. And when you can be with it and hold your heart, talk about the compassion, hold your heart gently, like, yeah, I'm anxious. It's like if you had a child, right? A little baby, or 5-year-old, 2-year-old. The kid is like, I'm scared. You're like, no, you're not. You're not scared. You're amazing. You're strong. You're powerful. Be somebody. How's that going to help the kid who's just crying because they're scared? Sometimes you just have to like be present with the kid and just say, hey, I understand, and hold and hold them. It's like, hold them. You don't tell the kid, you're not afraid, you're amazing. You just hold them and you hug them. And so you could say symbolically, it can start that way with yourself. Like, yeah, I feel a bit of anxiety. Place your hand on your heart then. After the things I've said, breathe, presence yourself. Bring a moment of just presence, compassion to your own self, to your own heart, and just breathe into that, And I think that's a place that people can just start practically, but also, you mentioned like, oh, those thoughts in my mind of like, oh, everybody else seems confident. Everybody else seems to be, comparing yourself. I think then we also have to be willing to question ourselves. How do you know everybody else feels more confident than you? Am I sure? So question yourself. Do I know this for sure? Is that a fact? How do I actually know that 200 people in this party right now are feeling so confident? No, I don't know that. Can I be sure? Yeah. No. How do I know that this person is not just faking it, like doing the false motivation? How do I know that they're not actually feeling terrible? And so if we can just start questioning ourselves, like, I'm worse off, I'm the least blah, blah, blah person in the room. Is that a fact? Many times we have a thought and we attach to the thought, I'm not enough and everyone else is, and we don't question the thought. And we start living as though that thought that we have is the reality, but it's just a thought. And if we live as though that thought is a reality, it creates more anxiety. It makes us feel worse. So on top of everything else I just shared, I think we have to be willing to question our thoughts. Is this fact? Is it a fact? I'm not enough. I'm not enough. And everyone, is I'm not enough fact? Yes, it is. Is it fact? Or is it like, I ask people, can you show me not enough? Here is a phone. Here is a pen. Here is a water bottle. This is a fact. We cannot, this is not in my imagination. Show me you're not enough. Present it to me right now. You cannot present it to me because it's not a fact. But we live as though it's a fact and we don't question it. So I think we have to be willing to just question, it's not a fact. I might be believing it, but it's not a fact. And that can begin the process of having a bit of space of questioning ourselves as well, And so I think if we can just begin to start there, that can just begin to shift things,
Yeah.
begin to shift things.
And
Because
going more into like you said, how we have these beliefs, we might have this belief that everyone else is confident, and we could start to question, how about some of these, deeper conditioned beliefs? Once someone is starting to have that awareness, they can be a bit more compassionate, hold that space. What is the process of unraveling these like deeply held conditionings that we got from as a child?
I think part of it is everything I've said, but there's a few nuances to it. Again, I don't believe it's a 1, 2, 3, 5 step, boom, your beliefs are gone formula. I don't think that's true. I wish it was. It'd just be push a button and but I think it is the process of gently, to me, healing is applying loving to those parts of yourself that are hurting. And if you're able to just gently bring loving, it's like a wound, a wound that has just been created. If you can bring loving to those parts of yourself that are hurting, with time, there's a softening. And then you step out into life in a different way. And that expands your sense of self. Then you bring more loving. And before you know it, with a bit of time, you're starting to experience yourself shifting. Then your beliefs about yourself, because you're taking different actions, but you're taking different actions because you're bringing loving and compassion to yourself. Then you're taking more different action. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I believe something different about myself from many levels, And so one thing I have noticed, I'm going to try to explain something that might sound a bit strange at first, but I think it's really a sneaky thing. Sometimes we hold on to these deep rooted beliefs, right? Like, I'm not enough. Fundamentally, I'm not enough. Two things. I'm not enough because, let's just say, mom left me with dad because I was 8 years old. And she abandoned me, didn't come back. So that's the proof. That's the proof. If I was enough, she wouldn't have left me. But again, we don't question. We need to question, but we don't question. If I was enough, she wouldn't have left. Could it mean anything else? Could it have meant anything else? Well, it could, yeah, but we choose not to focus on. It could have meant so many other things, but as children, experiences happen. We made those experiences mean certain things based on the interpretation and our limited capacity to interpret reality at that particular moment in time. And based on our limited capacity to interpret things at a limited moment in time, we assign a meaning about life, about ourselves, and we attach to that. That attached meaning became a belief, and now we went through life unconsciously seeking to reinforce that belief as a way to feel safe within ourselves. See, I'm not enough. See, he left me. See, she broke up with me. See, it proves that I'm not enough. And now at least I have some safety to know who I am. And so the reason I say that is, number one, we have to be willing to question those beliefs. Could it have meant anything else that mom left? Maybe she loved me so much that she didn't want to screw me up because she knew she would have screwed me up. Maybe it could have, maybe. And so one of the reasons that if someone is finding a hard time in letting go of those beliefs, like, I'm not enough. Sometimes we don't let go of beliefs, even though intellectually we understand. It's another form of control. People might be thinking, the hell do you mean? Control? I'm not trying. No, I want to let go. No, you don't. And
that's the ego again. Yeah.
It's another form of control, because here, and I've seen this with certain clients. It's like, if I'm not enough, right? If I'm fundamentally not enough, unlovable, unworthy, right? And I just not letting go of that, then you see, in a strange way, at least I have some control. Because if I'm unlovable, I'm unworthy, I'm not enough, then maybe I can still do something about it. If I can change my hairstyle, if I can lose some weight, get a six-pack, get all A's, get into Harvard, become an overachiever, make $50 million by the time I'm 26, have 2 kids, get married, have a Ferrari, then I can maybe finally become enough, and I still have some control by rearranging myself and my reality, maybe get Botox, maybe get a new, breast job, maybe, write a gazillion books, then I'm going to be enough. It's an illusion of control. And that's why it can be hard to let go of the belief, because if I let go of the belief that I'm not enough, and I actually let that go, oh my God, I don't have control anymore. How am I gonna get the sense of being enough? Because at least if I'm not enough, I can do something about it. Are you with me? But if wait, you mean to say if it's not about me, then how do I change myself, heal myself, do something different in order to feel enough? And so the alternative is to really have to acknowledge, which can be scary for the ego. They, as in your mom, your dad, whoever, they were not capable of loving you. It was actually them that was not capable. But to acknowledge the truth of that, because it's true, they weren't capable, right? To acknowledge the truth of that can feel very threatening to the ego, because if I admit that my dad was not capable and it was really him, not me, that's not enough, then I don't have control over him. And that opens up a momentary fear, a momentary death, a momentary grieving. And I think if we're willing to just go to realize, whoa, and let go of that control and move through that, we can begin to shift those beliefs. But it might take a moment of grieving to realize they weren't capable. It's not about me. It's not in my control. Wow, I have to let that die, that identity, to let that die. And that begins to shift things, you know. But so one of the reasons we tend to not let go of those beliefs is a form of control. And so it requires a letting go of control.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the ego created this like master plan, like maybe 10 years, 30 years down the line of how it's going to be enough. And by challenging that belief, you're kind of like, the mind was like, I did all this work. I came up with this entire plan. Are you telling me it's like, is no longer needed? It's, you know, it's going to be clinging onto it so powerfully. I think this transitions really well into the concept of surrender and letting go. And so, just what does it mean to surrender and to let go?
Look, I'm going to simplify it, right? Just for the sake of the conversation. I think in our culture today, we have so many misconceptions in terms of surrender. This notion that surrender is weak, that surrender is passive, that surrender is giving up, that surrender is waving the white flag, that if you surrender, you're being a doormat, you're being a victim, you're going to be taken advantage of. If you surrender, you're going to be left behind, that you won't manifest your goals, dreams, and desires. I mean, who the hell would want to surrender if that was the case? And so for me, I believe that surrender is the most powerful thing that we can do. That if you surrender and understood the real essence of surrender, like what if you didn't get less in life, but you got more? Like more than you could have planned with your conscious logic and your mind's personality, egos, intentionality. What if it was better and beyond? Maybe not what you expected, but better than you expected. And so for me, surrender in essence is, yes, it's a letting go of control, or I should say the illusion that we were in control in the first place. Surrender is a letting go of trying to force and manipulate life to fit your limited idea of how you think it should be and who you think you should be, so that you can be available and open. It's a taking the limitations off of life, so that you're available and open to life in its infinite intelligence, life leading you, life showing you, life guiding you. And so when I look at the truly great ones, you know, people that have inspired me in some way, shape, or form, a Jesus, a Buddha, a Gandhi, a Mother Teresa, a Mandela, a Martin Luther King, at some point, they all, Bruce Lee, Bob Marley, Muhammad Ali, right? At some point, they all had to surrender themselves. They had to surrender themselves to their calling, to that purpose that was bigger than themselves, to the universe, to the divine, to the deeper intention of their soul, the deepest impulse of their soul's expression. And in that surrender, I think that they transcended their own human limitations and tapped into another dimension of life and the potential of life. And that's when life began to use them. Life began to use Mother Teresa. Life began to use a Mandela. Life began to manifest through them and create through them in ways that they probably could not have imagined themselves. And so in the essence of surrender, I think surrender is the real secret to the next level of manifestation. Surrender is the real password to true freedom in life. And I think it's really why we're here, to incarnate, to surrender to who we truly are, our true essence, our true identity. And you know, the old paradigm of living, which a lot of self-help books write about, is all about, well, what do you want? You asked me that great question at the beginning. Who are you? If you don't know who you are, then what you think you want is just going to be what you think you want based on who you think you are. And you might manifest what you thought you wanted, only to realize that it's not what you really want and it's not going to be that fulfilling, because many times your goals can be projections of unmet needs from childhood. And so the question I like to maybe ask people is not what do I want, because who is the I, right? If you think you're just a little limited ego I that's not enough and anxious and this and that, then what you want is going to be off course. For me, the question becomes, what is it that life is seeking to express through me? What is it that God is seeking to express? What is the universe seeking to express? What is my soul seeking to express through me? The highest intention, and being available to that, being open to that, being receptive to that, so that you can listen, be still, listen, attune, hear, catch the vision that is expressing through you and moving through you. Then you can align your mind, your ego, your planning, your personality, your goal setting, your strategizing in sync with this deeper, authentic impulse of your soul. And then you can go 100%, give 100% without attaching to the outcome. And I think that's part of what surrender is give 100% to what's authentic without an attachment to the outcome. And I think that's where tremendous freedom is,
So that alignment is key. Like, you can still make decisions as long as it's aligned to that deeper self.
And
because,
so what I would invite people is sometimes your soul doesn't speak to you in a loud siren bell. Sometimes it's a quiet whisper. So I think what's helpful is if you just take, if you just take daily time to sit still. Many times we don't listen because we're so busy. And we're so busy because we're afraid of sitting still and listening, because we're afraid of, if I sit still and listen, my soul might guide me and it might not be what I want to hear. And I'm afraid of the consequences. And so we keep ourselves busy and distracted from just listening. But I think if we really sit still and listen, there's a part of us that deep down knows everything, because at the deepest level, we are everything. So I think if you just take daily time, maybe it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, just to sit still and do nothing and just listen and be open and receptive, just to hear the whisperings of your soul, the nudgings. Sometimes those nudgings are very, sometimes those nudgings can be like, call, send an email to so-and-so, send call Andrew. Well, why? Then the mind kicks in. Well, why? Because the mind is always wanting to know and understand what something means, because it's a form of control. Because if I can understand something, then I won't have to sort of be in the unknown. Then I can make sure I don't get hurt. Now we end up talking ourselves out of our creative intuition. And so I think if you can just take time, listen, follow the guidance. One thing I had to learn to do in life was I learned to listen, and I realized I wasn't following the listening. So then I learned to listen, and I realized that my true soul's guidance had a slightly different quality than my mind's strategy. And the mind there's a place for the mind. It's a servant to the soul. But what I began doing was I stopped questioning the deep inner guidance. Turn left, turn right, move to Bali, go to Miami, pick up the phone. Well, why? I don't know. And what I have found is you don't necessarily need to know where you're going or what something is in a moment to get to exactly where you need to be. There is an intelligence that knows, the same intelligence that is breathing you right now, the same intelligence that knows exactly how to digest your food, the same intelligence that if you were to cut your finger or cut your hand, you just keep it clean. It knows how to bring your body back into a healed state. It's the intelligence that knows how to sort of unfold your life. And so part of surrender is allowing life to lead you.
How do you differentiate that voice? Because sometimes the voice is maybe the ego, the fear, trying to control everything, tell you what to do.
Often that voice will not make sense to your mind. And there's a difference. If that voice makes complete sense to your mind, question. Many times when the guidance arises from that deeper dimension of your being, it's not arising from your conditioned mind, which is rooted in the past. It is arising from somewhere that is pure and unconditioned. So it won't always fit into the logical structure of your mind. And that's how you know, because it will be a very subtle like feeling that you realize you weren't like making it. You weren't manufacturing it. It just arose. And there's a difference. It will arise like, you weren't thinking about it. It's just like, Check that thing out. It's like, well, where did that come from? Wasn't me as I know myself to be. It was a subtle feeling that arose. And so I think if you can start tuning into the quality of that feeling, it often isn't laced with emotion or charge or stress or attachment. It's very subtle. So start listening to the subtle sensations in your body and start listening to the subtle sensations that you feel, that you sense, that you hear the whisperings, and just go. And I tell people, just take a step, just one step, just take a step in that direction, see what opens up. Life will often reveal itself to you in the process of living. So you take a step. Oh, life then shows you another step. Okay, cool. Something open. Take another step. Life reveals to you the next step. Okay, cool. Something open. And you just keep taking one step. And life often becomes let's say a revelation, but life starts leading you rather than you leading life. And that's when you start creating in harmony with the flow, in harmony with the divine, in harmony with the universe, and your manifestation is not limited to your mind.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, struggling with knowing which is that voice, if it's my soul talking or the ego, is something I still struggle with. Is this something you go deeper into in your works with your books?
Yeah. I talk about that in my book. The whole book is
Okay.
about that, man.
Okay, so it would be okay, perfect for me to read. I know you said you had to leave. You still have
Yes,
to leave now.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
so if people want to learn more about you, people are especially people who are looking to be more confident, be more authentic. How can you help people? What resources do you
Yeah, if
have?
people want to find that, I would say definitely check out the book, The Magic of Surrender. I wrote it very simply because I wanted people to read it. And
Mm.
so it's full of it's a roadmap to living surrender and living boldly in life, you know. So check the book out. It's available on Amazon. Get the paperback version. Secondly, twice a year I've done an event in Bali. It's called
Mm.
Boundless Bliss, 12 days. For me, there is nothing like this particular event in the world. And I say
Mm.
that quite humbly. It's not just me, but many of my clients that have been participants that have participated in it. It's a very, very unique 12-day process. I think that's very special. And so if you're someone that you're like, I'm ready to heal for real. I'm ready to heal my conditioning and past and connect to my own authentic essence and share my gifts with the world and be more confident in every area, then yeah, join me. The next event is December the 5th through the 16th. The 5th through the 16th in Bali. This is the last time I'm going to be doing this event. I've done 21 of
Mm.
these events in the last 12
Oh,
years. They've been truly life-changing, very intensive, very unique. www.boundlessblissbali.com. That's boundlessblissbali.com. You can find out more info there. That's probably some of the highest level of my work that I can share with the world. And then my podcast, Soul Talk, and also Instagram. People can drop in there. Kute
mm.
Blackson, Kute, Kute Blackson on Instagram. And Facebook, Kute Love Now.
Awesome. I'll leave all these in the show notes. Yeah, I had so many more questions, Cute, but I appreciate your time, and
No
yeah,
problem.
this is amazing.
We can figure out a part two anytime.
That would be fucking amazing. Hell yeah. Thank you so much, Cute. It was honestly such an honor to speak with
Pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
And yeah, take care, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for sticking with us till the end of this episode. If you liked the episode, please leave a review on whatever platform you're listening to. It makes a huge, huge help for us. So please do that. We have some amazing people already lined up for the next several podcasts. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.